G'day YouTube, Max Wright here, and we got some really good quality TA from Brett Fogle last week. So I said, Brett, come back on. The feedback was all good. You guys wanted to see more of him. So Brett, tell us, what have you got in store for us? We've had a little bit of choppy sideways action this week, not too much going on, but still a lot of fear in the market. A lot of fear in the market. Macro conditions still poor. Tell us what you're seeing in the charts.
Yeah, we'll dive into that. Like you said, seeing some stabilization. There are people trying to suggest we might be at a bottom. I'm not seeing that. We'll take a look at this, but we're having some short-term consolidation going sideways. It may be due to options expiration coming up. That's something we can touch on, but nothing really. We're trying to hold here around 20,000. Will we hold? Will we not hold? That's what we're going to talk about today.
Good stuff. Let's get to the charts.
All right, so let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up here, and we should be good to go. So we can let me know if you can see the chart there loading.
Yep, I got it.
Great, awesome. All right, guys. Well, I'm over here looking on the charts here. So what we're looking at here is the monthly. I always look at this, kind of see where things are looking, and we have about a week left in the monthly charts. So we're holding at this important 20,000 level, which we suggested last week. We have this line drawn here, and I'm looking for some lower lows, possibly around 16,500, 700. I've got a new chart to share with you. We'll look at that in a moment, kind of showing these 200 and 300, even the 400 weekly moving average on Bitcoin. Some really interesting stuff there. We always like to kind of see where things are looking in the macro environment, what it looks like on a bigger scale. I know there's a lot here visually, so let me clean it up a little bit. Still is monthly BTC RSI at historic lows, and so it's a little bit concerning. And again, Bitcoin has never been through a recession, much less a depression. 2008, 2009, Bitcoin was just brand new, didn't have any history with this. So we're seeing a lot of selling off on risk assets, technology stocks, NASDAQ 100, and of course, Bitcoin. So we'd really want to see and need to see this bounce up here by the end of the month, and that would be by next week. But I think we could see some further downside here in the short term, and we'll just have to wait and see. Money flow, accumulation, distribution, all heading lower. And of course, the RSI, the MACD, still just in a free fall. Look at this. And so that would suggest we're close to a bottom, but, we could see another month or so of this based on the huge run up we had coming into earlier last year in 2021. What goes up must come down. And so the higher they go, the higher they fall. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, that sort of thing. So with that, let's see, I can jump over, let's jump over to the weekly on this chart, and then I'll show you the new one. And again, ignore all the spaghetti lines here. I'll try to make it as easy to understand as possible. And Max, of course, jump in if you have any questions. But so this red line, now the purple line here is I should always make sure we have that, the 200 week moving average. We sort of held there, but we've broken that. And so the next area of interest is this red line right around 16. It's rising. So where it was a little lower last week, now we're around the 16,700, 800 range for the 300 weekly average. And so that's our moving average rather. So that's next area of strong support right in here. And then if that can't hold, we'd be looking at around 14,000 as a next leg lower. Some people are saying 10,000, possibly later, but we are getting very oversold here. And the fear and greed index is sort of at a historic low on the fear side. And traditionally, that's a great time to be buying for some kind of a bounce. Question is, will the bounce be a bull trap? Will we get one, or will we capitulate straight down and hit these lower lows sooner? So nobody really knows. We do have some indicators we're watching that we developed that kind of give us a clue. And but you kind of see that on the oscillators too when they start to turn back higher. So the weekly BTC RSI, again, historic lows is the red circle here is indicating that we're below where we ever have been before. And so the end of the week, this Sunday in just a few days, would be interesting to see if we can push back above that and kind of put in a bounce here, which could then come and retest it. And these are just the signals and signs we'll watch for. But, these critical support levels, when they break, typically they go lower. Could we go down to 20 and see just historic bottoming on the RSI? Anything is possible. And certainly, but we haven't seen that before. So we're in uncharted territory. Now that could either be, concerning to you, or ideally we're getting ready for a historic buying opportunity. So the weekly stochastics RSI, again, sort of, it's bouncing here. We saw the kind of the Russia war back here, bottoming back in January when the news broke about that, and then back to the COVID crash. So we see that we're at these very, very low levels. And so whether it's this week, next week, week after, we're probably going to start seeing this thing push up and see a really strong push to the upside. It doesn't mean we're at the bottom, though. So we want to be careful and not take anything at face value, because we could see this double bottoming, as we can see back here last summer, where we saw that happen. And then we had a nice little trigger on our early reversal indicator right to the day, to the week that we started to push higher on that.
So Brett, maybe just go back to that RSI, please, there, the weekly RSI.
Yeah, sure.
And a little bit of education as we go along the journey here. So now not the stochastic RSI, not the RSI.
Gotcha. Okay.
So a little bit of education here. So with the stochastic RSI, my understanding is that this one, it reacts quite quickly to changes in sentiment. The give up, the trade-off is that you get some false positives with it because it reacts quite quickly. Is that a fair assessment of the stochastic RSI?
It is. So essentially, it's a lot more. You have a lot more whipsaws, and one of ours, which I can show, is a sort of a smooth version of this. But what is still valid are these extremes. You tend to, once it breaks. The way to read an RSI is when it breaks back above the 20 line, then it generally will kind of revert to the middle or push to the other extreme. The first buy signal is when the slow stochastic crosses over the faster one. So the blue line crossing up over the red one. And so, but you do get a lot of these oscillations, and they can have some false positives. That's correct.
Okay, cool. Go for it.
So it's a good segue, actually, because of that, we had developed this thing called the TSI, a trend strength indicator, and you might be able to find something on your trading software similar to that to smooth out some of the noise. This one here, we just have color coded it so that when those lines cross, it turns from red to green. There's some other stuff in here that we don't need to get into. But what I'm waiting for is for that to turn from red to green down the bottom, and then again break above that 20 line. So this is similar to it's an oscillator. It's similar to the stochastics RSI. It got some other things built into it, but that is really what we're waiting for. And then just again, this early reversal indicator that we haven't seen fire yet. Saw that trigger in the midsummer. That's what I'm waiting for on the daily and weekly basis. This other chart, though, I know we're kind of short on time, so I want to squeeze in as much as we can for you guys. So here is a slightly different version of this weekly. This is the daily chart of Bitcoin. And these lines here coincide with the, actually, this is not weekly. I was just putting that on there. I thought I was on a weekly. So this is, actually it is. These are weekly moving averages for Bitcoin. So we held its support a little bit here, right back at the 22,000. I had predicted that would be a level we would drop to. So we held for a few days because essentially that was the 200-week moving average. So where are we now? We see this orange line is the 300-week moving average. And all these other colors, I know it's a lot. These are Fibonacci circles and some things that I won't really go into, but they can be very accurate when there's confluence there. So you can see this confluence here on the 300 weekly moving average and this 16,600 level. And so this is a confluence of a number of things, these fib circles and that 300 weekly. So I think right here, we can also sort of project out on dates when we use the fib circle. So that would put us around July 30th. Now, I don't know that it's going to take that long, but that would be my next target by the end of July, is right around 16,600. Between now and then, I think we'll kind of consolidate, maybe push up higher to retest the 200-week moving average as a resistance level. So if we get a rally here, we'll probably push up to this sort of 22,500 level. And that would be a place I would be taking profits and or shorting based on other things. If we get overbought on the RSIs and stochastics. So a little bit more advanced here, but also, and then the 400 weekly moving average, a lot bit later, 12,700. If things really get nasty, when could we see that? We were looking at it maybe into September. I don't know. I think probably buying pressure will come in before then, but a lot of it's going to be news driven. One thing I'll just touch on is that the look on your face is classic, by the way. You're like, what am I looking at? But with these companies going under, I think we've just seen the tip of the iceberg with Celsius and Three Arrows Capital, and now I'm hearing that Voyager is withholding withdrawals. So there's a lot of exposure. I think that we're going to see some more of these companies announce are going under, and that's certainly going to scare the market and probably push us a bit lower. So any thoughts on that? And I'll just jump over to the
I completely agree. There'll be this cascading effect, and it's a really good lesson for everyone to learn. It doesn't just happen in the crypto market; it happens in the broader markets. Like I think 2008 is just a great model just to learn from, because it was such extremes. You had the Icelandic stock market went down. And people thought it was a local isolated thing, but it wasn't. It causes contagion. And then there's another place, and then there's another place. And 6 months, 12 months later, Lehman Brothers goes down, and all of a sudden you realize, oh God, the whole system, there's so much contagion because everything is cross-correlated. And we're seeing that in the crypto markets. The reason Celsius was going down is that Celsius was massively exposed to Luna. So Luna went down first, and then we find out weeks later, Celsius freezes withdrawals, because they've got exposure. They had so much exposure to Luna. Mm-hmm. So now the question is, well, who else had exposure to Luna that we haven't learned about, and who had exposure to Celsius that we don't know about? And so you get that contagion effect, and the system just has to flush out from all of these over leveraged actors, basically, and that just creates incredible buying opportunities. The question we got to figure out is, where is this bottom, so we don't get too greedy and wait too long and never get back in. Versus we get in too early, try to catch that falling knife, and then we watch the market plunge, and we get that yuck feeling that no one wants to have at all.
Yeah, and well said. It's the contagion, and it does fuel itself between liquidations and stop losses triggering. And I was watching a clip by, I think it was Robert Kiyosaki, and or maybe it was Mr. Wonderful, I can't remember, but essentially saying that the markets, to put in a true bottom, you got to see it usually waits for a major company to go under. And we've seen a couple of these ancillary ones, but we haven't seen a major company yet. I think Luna was certainly a big one, but let's say, for example, that at Coinbase, what could really send us lower is if Coinbase went bankrupt, or the other one would be if MicroStrategy saw a major liquidation. Now, I have some intel. I know a mutual friend with Michael Saylor, and basically he controls the board. They're able to make their interest payments on the long-term debt, but we don't really know the full picture. And so if news broke that either one of these major big companies, Coinbase certainly could, because they're the most family friendly and more of the average investor, new investor in crypto. A lot of us who are on these other exchanges, we've been around, we understand the volatility, but I think it would be a major blow to the consumer confidence of crypto as a whole if Coinbase were to go under. And there was, whether or not Brian Anderson was warning of that, they released something that was a required disclosure. So I don't, a lot of people misquoted that, saying that Coinbase said they may go bankrupt. That's not what they said. They actually said the opposite, that they can't and won't, but because of SEC disclosures, they had to say if that were to happen, people could lose their coins. But anyway, let's hope that doesn't happen, because certainly that would be bad for crypto and send us into a deep, long winter. But we'll see what happens. We haven't seen the last, I think, as you said, the contagion. Who had Luna exposure? We just don't know. And those that probably have some are in denial. They're not going to announce it until they have to. So with that, let's just jump over to the Bitcoin Daily here and see what we are seeing. We're seeing some consolidation again, this 20,000 level. Now, what I wouldn't be surprised of is, because that 20,000 level was so strong, a lot of times in seeing these markets on long time frames and short time frames, the market makers will overshoot the real levels, and they'll be, so if 20,000 in is a short-term bottom, what they'll do is they'll push price below that to basically liquidate longs and trick people into going short, and then they'll push it back up. See a lot of this kind of manipulation, just like we saw that back up in here, drop down here, big down candle, came back up. They tricked all the longs or liquidated longs, tricked the shorts into going short, pushed it back up, spiked price here to 32,000, which I also predicted on May 19th, and then rolled over and liquidated the longs and took their own short position. So these market makers and the algorithms, they're not to be played with. And so it's dangerous here to assume we're going up or down. That's why we've kind of created our own sort of a bottoming indicator. And it's called the ERI. I know I showed it last week, but we haven't. I'm waiting for this green arrow or a series of these to start to trigger, just like the red one up here. These have proven to be pretty accurate here. And also my radar, which shows time frames. I like to see all of these align before I'm really feeling comfortable going back in. So on the 1 hour and 4 hour and weekly, still bearish. And the daily is somewhat bullish on the on this stochastics RSI, or sorry, it's our own version of modified stochastics that feeds this. But because these are not on alignment, I just don't know where we're going. I think we'll either hold here, maybe a bit of a bounce. Let's just see. I could put up a stochastic on RSI, but it actually is coming up. It's pushing a little bit higher, but until it breaks that 20 line, I just don't trust that the momentum is there behind it. So my guess is we will hold here for a few days, and then we'll drop and we'll hit that 16.5, 16.7 level, and then we'll see a push higher, which I think will probably be a bit of a bull trap before we actually push down. So. And we could look at, I won't get into the shorter time frames here. Let's not do that. I did want to show you, this is interesting. This is a total market cap. It's the total market cap excluding Bitcoin divided by the total market cap. Now, we don't really need to know what this means, but we have this triple test up in here and didn't really break through. So that sent this down lower. And now we are seeing a bit of a bounce. But I would imagine we're going to kind of push higher in this region and then come back down again. Just basically more money coming out of the overall and broader market. Let's take a look quickly at the, let's see real quick on that total market cap or USDT dominance. We looked at that last week, and keep me posted on the time, because I know we're short on time here today. But yep. The USDT market cap. So we looked at this last week. And I'm sorry, USDT. This is USDT dominance. And again, that is the amount of money that's flowing into Tether, essentially a stable coin. So what we see is an inverse relationship with this. And let's see, am I in the right time for, yeah, with this and Bitcoin? I thought I had trend lines on here. And so let me just put these back on, because as we saw last week, and I had noted that, I think we'll push higher on the USDT dominance, which will send Bitcoin lower. And we did that, but it is kind of coming back down to this moving average here, which seems to be fairly well respected. So if we take a look at this, just to confirm which one this is going to be the 21 period moving average, right? So what does this mean? Well, it means either we'll bounce here. We could push up, I think 10% was, is this going to be an all-time high? Point is, as USDT goes higher, Bitcoin's going to go lower. So we've pulled back a little bit, meaning money coming out of USDT, and usually it'll go into crypto. So with that, is there anything else you'd like to look at? We could look at our, sort of the CME and talk about the gaps, but this is a bit over, maybe over people's head.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect little thing that we've got there covering this week. And yeah, like I think we both agree here. A little bit of chop going on, a little bit of sideways action, and waiting for its kind of confirmation to kind of break out one direction or the other. So let's go ahead and wrap it up there. Brett, help people out. Let them know where they can follow you.
Sure. Well, we have actually a let's see. We have a presentation tonight, actually, and we'll put the link down below. The link is actually being created right now. It's an urgent market update. So we're going to take what we talked about today and continue with that and go in a little deeper with some coins, what we're seeing. There are some sectors that are seeing a decent little bounce, and we're seeing a bit of green here, which is this, we can see on some of these altcoins and some of them that are bottoming. There's a pretty good sector, by the way, that we'll talk about tonight that may be of interest. And for long-term buying, seeing some nice sort of curves higher and maybe some really strong support. So these are metaverse related, so that, we've got a ways to go on all these. But last week, and actually in my live class yesterday, we were talking about, what's bouncing when everything is down. So there's a couple of those we'll be diving into. So if you guys would like to join that, the link will be, can be posted in the comments?
Yeah, we'll put a link in the description.
Right. We'll have a little more time. We'll go into a little deeper and some of what we talked about today and a little more depth. But, we see some green coming in here and there's some interesting projects that, you can make money in swing trading, even on bounces, even if we haven't seen the ultimate bottom yet. So.
Perfect. All right. Well, guys, help us out. Go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'm really enjoying Brett's TA. I think we're going to see a lot more of him around here. We might, in fact, Brett, we might even get you just make that a weekly thing. We'll get you on here and sharing your thoughts, because I think it's great, it's valuable, insightful, and I love the education as we go along. I think we'll work on that a little bit too, so people can learn a little bit about what's going on. So that's perfect. So guys, yeah, smash that like button, hit the subscribe. Brett, thank you so much for being here, and guys, we'll see you soon. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.